Hi everyone, welcome if you're new and welcome if you're returning. I am going to lay some cards out here in a second, but I want to get through an initial message that's kind of coming through. I wasn't actually going to record a reading today. I started seeing images flashing in my head and they just went in a cycle, which is what happens when typically I channel energy and it starts. So I'm going to really briefly run through the images that I'm seeing before I get into all of this. The first thing I was seeing somebody sitting in lotus position. I was seeing their third eye, and I was seeing smoke coming out of their third eye. And around them, I was seeing these faces that were starting to appear. And they were appearing very slowly as the smoke was exiting the third eye. And the idea of this wasn't that a block, well, yeah, I mean, I guess it's a block. It was almost as though the more someone got to know themselves and the beliefs about themselves, untangled is kind of how it feels, the more tuned in someone became. And, I would expect to see that. So whoever I'm speaking to, you're extremely tuned in right now. And there is a face that's more prominent. And I feel like for this, because there is an importance placed upon this, I feel like I'm using the cards for that. But there's a whole message just coming through right now. So I'm going to give this first. Whoever I'm reading for, you may not even be aware of how tuned in you are, but you are very psychic. And it's the type of tuned in, again, that grows the stronger the more that you know yourself and the more that you actually get to understand your feeling states, right? You seem to be recognizing patterns of things that are happening a little bit more than you used to, and that's actually furthering your ability to be tuned in. Now, whoever I'm reading for, you experience a lot of synchronicities, odd events, deja vu, and this is really how the consciousness field is interacting with you. Whether you choose to interpret that as spirit guides or spirits or ancestors, whatever it is, it's like a field of consciousness that's interacting with you. You may view it as God or the universe. But right now, at this time that this video is being posted, if you happen to be watching it when I'm posting it, or at a later date if you happen to be noticing it for the first time, there seems to be a level of great importance being placed on the decisions that you make at this time. It's like the deja vu is a peek into other time. So it's like a different timelines, different realities bumping against each other at these deja vu interconnections. And sometimes they go a long time without interconnecting and then they come back together again. These deja vus that you're experiencing are very important to this moment because they provide a peek into another timeline. You're being guided to stretch that view as those connection points take place, which are little windows, so that you can see the effect of the current moment that you're sitting in, that you're having that deja vu about, because there are choices that need to be made in order to direct you to a particular place. This place, it's not like imperative that you get there, but it's a place that it feels like something in your soul is trying to get to in order to break out of a karmic holding pattern. So there's either an experience that your soul is trying to have that it hasn't gotten to have because it continues to be stuck in this particular type of way, or it's trying to avoid something that it keeps experiencing that it no longer necessarily needs to experience. And this is in direct relation to how you've gotten to know yourself and the beliefs that you've entangled that are now exiting this third eye space. So this is very interesting. It's like self-making. So somebody is needing to pay attention to those moments and those brief interconnections between realities at this time. And you're being guided to, again, just to reiterate, further your view in those moments. So stretching your awareness, and it's like a muscle that you have to build so that you can see further and further and further into the future of that particular timeline and that deja vu to know exactly how things will play out. Okay. Yeah, there's an experience your soul's trying to bring you towards or steer you away from. Absolutely. Okay, so they're giving me symbols now, and I know that there's like an energy shift taking place, so they're going to focus on the one prominent face, which is an aspect of consciousness that is trying to interact with you. Okay, so the symbols, if you're new to my channel, if they don't resonate with you, it doesn't mean that it's not your message. It just means that the people who it resonates for should pay extra attention. So the first symbol is Polaris, the star. Actually, I just heard Polaris, so it might be something else. I don't know. A red train. There's a lake that's kind of strange. I'm almost seeing like desert around the lake, but I don't think it has to be. It's just there's something strange about this lake. It's like a strange little lake. A mountain symbol with an eye, a lion crest, a kestrel, a black stone. I forget what this stone is called. It's like a black stone that has like this silver starburst. A black feather that is very significant to somebody, and then a mountain lion. Okay, so those are the symbols. 3 cards. Yeah, so because this is a card, this is a reading that seems to be about our interconnection with things. There is a way, again, a holding pattern where we're stuck. We have the 8 of Swords, which is about being trapped. And then this is something that inside of our soul, there seems to be a level of anguish or grief or anxiety that comes bubbling up that maybe we don't necessarily have a face for, right? We can't necessarily tie it back to something. And this is because this is an aspect of yourself that is desperately trying to get out of whatever it's stuck inside of. I'm being told right now that if you want to understand what that might be, although I think that whoever this message is for, you already know. But if you want to really know, look into your karmic astrology, the karmic placements inside of your natal chart. So here what we have is we have the 9 of Swords. And this 9 of Swords is really indicating that. It's really indicating that aspect of our soul because she was asleep, right? So for me, that really speaks about the supreme being that is behind our consciousness, that is not necessarily awake and aware of the 3D. It's existing in its own realm. And this is where it's trying to wake up in a certain sense. It's trying to gravitate towards a particular experience, but it's stuck. And this experience it's trying to gravitate towards here is being represented by the Lovers. This could be literal for some of you. However, I am feeling that this is more about a partnership with the external reality, and I feel that this is about a choice. So it is understanding that it has to make a different choice than it has made previously, but we seem to be on a program of autopilot where we consistently make, time and time again, a very particular choice that leads us down a very particular path that we seem to get caught in. And so this message is coming through for somebody to really pay attention to those deja vu moments, because it's important for you to understand the results of certain actions so that you can navigate yourself in the direction that you would rather go. You don't necessarily even need to know what this holding pattern is. You just need to know that in those deja vu moments that you're making the decision that you want to take, right? One of the things that's taking place here is the Page of Swords. And so this Page of Swords is about learning. Your soul's trying to learn something new. It's trying to have a new experience. But this is also a new skill that we're going to have to learn. So the Page of Swords is speaking to multiple areas of this. This Page of Swords is sitting beneath this 8 of Swords and this 9 of Swords. Your soul's trying to learn how to become more conscious. It does that by creating a little bit more of an awareness inside of our identity self, right? It's kind of like when you're asleep, right? When you're a dream, you're just a dream character. The real you is asleep, but you can program yourself and you can train yourself to become lucid. So now your awareness enters the dream character in a higher degree so that now you can control things. And this is kind of what it seems like somebody's soul is trying to do. They're trying to inject a greater level of awareness into our waking life so that we interact with the dream in a different way. I have to say this because it's coming through for some of you. For some people inside of this collective, you've had many lifetimes where you were not able to have the experience of love, of a higher level of love. And so your soul is actually trying to gain that experience inside of this life. But in order to do so, there are certain habits and certain choices that have to change. And this is what it's trying to bring you into, because it's trying to get out of this holding pattern where, for whatever reason, we haven't been able to have this experience. It almost feels like we did at one point, and then something happened that then set off a karmic cycle of this not not coming together. There may be a lot of negativity or a lot of negative beliefs about love or people that you are trying to attract actually coming in as part of that. So that's just for a few of you that came in, so I had to give it. We have the Three of Wands, and so this is about when somebody is waiting to be taken to a different shore, right? We have the explorer in the traditional Three of Wands that's waiting on the shore for the boat to take him to the place that he planned on going. And so this is what's happening here. We're learning how to get to a different shore, how to get to a different story. The reason why this seems to be coming out in this way, I do want to say, I didn't say it yet, I do feel like you have a guide or you have a deity or you have an ancestor that's actually trying to come through and work with you on this. We have the Two of Swords here. Again, it's representing that holding pattern. But this holding pattern here, okay, so this is interesting. For some of you, the way that this being, I'll just call it a being, the way that this being is trying to communicate is in liminal spaces. That's what the Two of Swords is saying to me here. And so what the liminal spaces are is, for example, the hypnagogic state. So just before sleeping, right, where we see all the images behind our eyes. Not everybody experiences that. I just recently became aware of that. I didn't know that. But not everybody experiences that. But some of you, you may be having voices, for example, in that state, rather than the eyes that a lot of people see or the faces that a lot of people see. And so if you are hearing a particular voice, you may be noticing that voice is trying to give you information about things. This being, whoever it is, it's trying to use the liminal spaces to help you navigate all of this. We could even think of this as an aspect of our deeper self that's trying to come through and speak. I do want to say one thing about that. And this is, I'm really going down rabbit holes here, but it's because it's coming through. If you are a female, for example, you might be experiencing this as a male voice. And if you are a male, you may be experiencing this as a female's voice. Because there is a heavy element of the balance of feminine and masculine energy that's coming through inside of this reading for me, especially with that Lovers card. Because this is all about that balance between ourselves and this field of consciousness, the balance that's taking place inside of ourselves that we've had to work through in getting to know ourselves, the balance of our sleeping self versus our waking self. So this whole reading, there's something about balances, and there does seem to be a guide of some kind that is trying to help you navigate this in order to bring your soul into a new phase, into a new journey. This very well could indicate that this is about a theme of consciousness. If you don't know about themes of consciousness, these tend to be karmic states that we get trapped in for a very long time. A lot of people have the theme of consciousness of violation, and so this becomes a repeating pattern within their lifetimes until they change that theme of consciousness. Someone here, this may be a healing of a theme of consciousness, in which case this is huge. Here we have the Page of Wands, and we have that to the King of Wands. So the Page of Wands is the explorer, and the King of Wands is somebody that masters their focus, right? So this seems to be, again, what's taking place. There seems to be this explorer energy where the soul is really trying to break out and explore something new, but it requires the conscious self to really focus its attention. And so definitely, if you're experiencing those deja vu moments, pay attention to those deja vu moments and try to, not just say, oh, I've been here before, I remember this, but to stretch your mind into the experience of what comes next, what happens after this. And you'll find that as you do that more and more, that awareness actually grows until you have an entire story. You'll even remember how you got there, and it'll weird you out a little bit because you'll notice that what you remember is a little different than the actual moment that's taking place. So let's see. What else are we doing here? We're doing this. Okay. This guide or this being has been with this collective for a very long time. Again, you are extremely psychic, and it feels a little bit like this is a protector energy. I even have the warrior coming out. I'm not reading the bottom of the card. I am reading just the titles here because I want this to be a very archetypal. I don't want to get into little weird details about this because it's going to be different for everybody in terms of who this being is. This does seem to be some sort of guide or, again, deity, ancestor that is very protective. And again, it's about this energy right here, waking some aspect of ourselves up into a new reality. When we are finding ourselves inside those karmic holding patterns, what we're doing is we're kind of working on autopilot. And so this is really about taking control back from the autopilot state and being able to enact some sort of willpower to be able to change that, right? So that now we can have other experiences and that we're not stuck in the same story. We do have the cartographer, which is about the map, right? So again, that exploratory sort of energies coming in, and then the founder, about laying new foundations and building an entirely new sort of life or history or story for ourselves. There is a huge emphasis here on love, on family, on creating family for ourselves. So I want to say that whoever this message is for, you may have really been lonely in different times of your life, and in order to be this tuned in, it feels like you may have had to work through that loneliness. However, there's still obviously human basic needs. We do need people, and so it does feel like you're trying to attract either like-minded people or like a healthy partner. There's something here about connections and partnerships that's coming through in this reading for me very heavily in terms of the place that your soul is trying to navigate yourself. There may have been lifetimes, for example, where you were ostracized or imprisoned or somehow cut off from people. This may even look like, for example, if you had incarnated as a female in other lifetimes and, you were taken advantage of, if you know what I mean. And oftentimes you would be kicked out of your family. If you were of a particular type of people, you would be kicked out of your family, or just kind of like left on the wayside because your dowry couldn't be gained from, right? So there's something like that. There's something like that where there's just been these situations inside of our life, whatever the situations are, that have caused us to be ostracized or cut out or left out in some way. And that may have contributed to some abandonment issues inside of this life. And while you may not necessarily feel abandoned in this life, though I do get that some of you do, there's still that sort of emptiness from that genuine connection that's taking place inside of whoever I'm reading for. And so it does feel like that is the overall theme that people are trying to break out of here. It can be other things, but this is the major one that I'm getting. And then I have the Spy Master. What's really standing out to me here is the Crow. For some of you, the crow may be significant. Again, the black feather, I believe, it was like a black feather of significance. That came out earlier in the symbols. And so some of you may be recognizing that the appearance of crows always happens around the time that you receive a message, or crows are very significant to people who come into your life or leave your life. So there's something about crows inside of this reading for me. You may even have like a spirit crow that you work with or feel that it is a power animal, for example. Okay. I do feel that symbolically this crow represents this being. And the next card is the Assassin. So we have the Spy Master and the Assassin. Whoever this being is, they seem like they are in charge of kind of like protecting you from other energies. Because you are extremely psychic, it feels like we attract, and this kind of came out in yesterday's reading. And so if you do resonate with this, maybe check out yesterday's reading. If you didn't, it was about a very powerful medium. Just because I saw the faces around as well, this being seems like they really protect you from external energies, and you may be aware of that. You may have had moments where it was like you felt like there was a lot of things around you that made you very uncomfortable, and then all of a sudden they were gone. Or there was a problem inside of your life with a particular individual, and then all of a sudden it was like that person forgot about it. This being seems to be tasked with some sort of divine protection. Oh, this being came out in yesterday's reading. There's a part of the reading where I have a scroll, and at the top I said it looked like two crows speaking to each other, and then I said that it transformed into wings, and it looked like divine protection, like higher level protection. So yeah, definitely I will link that at the end of this video. I'm also being drawn to this mouse here that has the sword. Sometimes this being it seems to take the back seat, so that it's not necessarily trying to be at the forefront of our story, right? So for some of you, again, it seems to speak in the liminal spaces, or it seems to try to help you in some way, but it's not really trying to be there in your forefront, like awareness. It knows that that's not necessarily its role. Its role is to be on the outskirts, but it does seem to be trying to urge you at this time to avoid some sort of very important choice that's about to take place. It may even be a series of choices that are about to take place sometime within this time frame. So it doesn't necessarily have to be immediately after this video or immediately surrounding this video. It might be an entire phase of your life. For example, for some of you, it might be like the next 5 years, everything that you decide in the next 5 years. For some of you, it might be the next 5 days. I don't know. It's very different for everybody. I'm feeling a very different energy there. But you definitely have some sort of higher level protection that is trying to help you as a soul break through this thing. And that brings me back to the Lover's card. It's almost like this being is a lover of our soul, or like a partner of our soul. And that doesn't always have to be a romantic thing, right? I'm not saying that, but it does seem very intimately connected in some way, so that it's trying to help our soul progress. Okay. Yeah, and again, this is about the soul trying to take on new things, new learning. We have the acolyte popping up. I also want to draw attention to this. This is a vase, a vase, that has a closed eye. So it's like that aspect of our soul that is trying to get new energy inside of it. It's trying to gain a new experience. So whoever this message is for, you're definitely in a very important time in your life, a very important time in your soul's story. Here, you have the opportunity to greatly change the experience of your soul throughout lifetimes. So definitely pay attention to those deja vu moments, even pay attention to those synchronicities, those odd events, odd occurrences. I would even go so far as to say, pay attention to people who seem familiar to you. It doesn't mean place too much importance on those people, but there may be reasons why those people feel important to you. And there is a little bit of a warning that came in with that. It doesn't always mean that the people who feel important to you are the people that you should gravitate towards. Sometimes they're the people you should stay away from. So again, trusting your intuition, not necessarily the chemistry, right? Those are two different things, and we often confuse them as people. So this guide, however, it does seem like they are with you, and even though you may not necessarily always be aware of them, they speak very loudly in certain ways. And so if you are somebody who you know that you have interactions and experiences within that hypnagogic state, or any kind of liminal space, you can reach that sort of space when you're driving and you're kind of zoned out, right? It's really that in between where we're super conscious and awake and aware, and then when we're not, it's that floating in between those spaces, that trance state. If you are aware that you have communications, it may be a good time to tune into that and to tap into that, because you're definitely being interacted with. So whoever this message is for, I wish you the best of luck with this in figuring this out and making the choices that are best for you, so that you can have that experience that you really want. And if you like this video, please hit that like button, and until next time.